Hey, look at this. It is the first edition of Jeff Mackey Live of 2026. I'm Spencer Israel. That's Jeff Mackey. Jeff, how was your New Year's and holidays? All good?
They were delightful. They were absolutely spectacular. Went did some
Good.
traveling with the fam and had the kids in town. And now the nest is empty again. Things are a little quiet. So it's nice to see you, Spencer. It's nice to be surrounded by people.
Likewise. All right. It was a really good year for retail. We spoke about that at the end of the year. Rather than do anything broad, I thought today we should just kind of focus on just a couple of stocks. One in particular is it seems to be it's in the news a lot lately, and that company is Nike. It was in the news a couple weeks ago because Tim Cook, who's on the board of directors, bought a few $1 million worth of stock, and then the CEO followed that up with an insider buy of his own, and then it went viral over the weekend because there was a thing in Venezuela. We'll talk about that. So all of that translates to it's actually been a pretty good couple of days / couple of weeks for Nike, the stock. So let's talk about Nike. Is it time to buy this stock now? That is my question for you, Jeff.
Maybe, there's names I'm more excited about for reasons we'll get into. But yeah, like you say, the Venezuelan dictator, apparently he's sponsored by Nike. I'm not sure if that's an official relationship or how that works. But he showed up playing kind of AR. Who knows what he was doing. But I've modified the picture. You can see he's got the goggles on there and he's looking resplendent with a special logo. And searches for that particular that tracksuit absolutely exploded up some 10 to 50 fold, depending on who you talk to. It went. I was checking it out myself. Briefly sold out. To their credit, and this is actually the part where maybe operationally Nike's getting just a little bit better. These were marked down. It went from kind of a bargain bin item that was sort of selling through and out to a bestseller. $140. I bought myself one with not a Venezuelan president logo, but a Minnesota Vikings logo. I was hoping that would be here for the show today, but it's not. Any press is good press, and the guy looked kind of dope. If you flash up to the other picture, for a Venezuelan strongman, he looks like a DJ. I mean, and he looks like he's spinning some good tracks. He seems fun. He seems like a fun guy. I'm sure he's a desperate and a horrible human being, but he looks good. And there's a little zipper there. I don't know. We'll see. Any news is good news, and anything that moves product, and particularly that Nike's able to actually kind of turn this into sales by getting into stock on the product. That's terrific. The insider buys, little overstated. It's not, Tim Cook has an awful lot of money, and he did not, in fact, put an awful lot of money into it. So
that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. It was a couple $1 million, right? Which for Tim Cook, that's like $100 for me, right?
Yeah. He's a famously kind of neat and tidy guy, and so he probably found like $1 million in his couch cushions in the office, and he's like, "My God, get this out of here!" And his secretary put it into Nike stock.
Yeah.
It might have been a safer investment there in the couch seats at Apple. I'm not sure. They got together and they said, "Okay, 4 directors, you're going to go buy stock." Elliott Hill, the CEO, went out and bought a similarly rather dispiritingly low amount on a dollar basis of shares, but it got him in the headlines. Any news is better news than what they had before, which is, we've missed the quarter by 500 miles, and we're going to talk about innovation on the conference call. I believe it was a year ago last summer, they mentioned innovation 27 times. That was incredible for a company that makes sweatshirts. You're not doing a moon program at Nike. I hope not. Anyway, it's not that kind of operation. And so far, in terms of the turnaround with Elliott Hill, he was there really largely to undo the work that the last guy had done.
Right.
Which, if that's your agenda, is just to piss on the dude who got the job before you. The company that typically is not turnaround sauce. That's typically not kind of how you make companies work. But the stock is putting in a bottom. They've moved sales from direct to consumer to wholesale, and it's inside baseball kind of chatter. But not a lot has happened in terms of the turnaround. But that wasn't expected. It kind of comes down to whether or not this is the bottom is going to come down to the next couple quarters. But you can see from a stock perspective, this is the last year. Decker's one of the worst performers in the S&P 500 last year, down some 50%, and hasn't gotten real much better over the last few weeks. But what's interesting about this chart is that On Holdings, which I still like more as a stock, to be honest, but Nike's outperforming them over the last year or so. That's pretty good because On, while it's a much more expensive stock, has reported absolutely phenomenal numbers. I mean, it's if you're kind of a shareholder of On, which I have been in the past, you know, this is a kind of gripes your ass a little bit because Nike's doing absolutely nothing in terms of producing positive results on any line. And those stocks doing better than On Holdings, which continues to be a Swiss watch.
Jeff, if you had taken this screenshot 2 weeks ago, it wouldn't look the same. Nike's up 15% since December 23rd. So the last 2 weeks have probably been have helped Nike leapfrog on this chart, right?
Yeah. So if they plan to have, director Tim Cook could afford to buy 1 million shares every week from now until the sun explodes. So, if that's what they're going, I'm not sure how many Venezuelan dictators you can run out of office in kind of cool looking sweatsuits. But, to get a real turn, you're going to need you got about 2 quarters. There's the 1 year give or take rule for CEOs where, as long as they have a plan and a little momentum, the numbers don't matter that much. And you can see the stock start to move. But, if you mention innovation 27 odd times in a call, eventually you have to innovate something. And these guys need a merch refresh, notwithstanding the marketing push that they're getting from the headlines. The spring merchandise is going to be key. They've been pointing to this, the March kind of time frame as really when you're going to see new product, actually genuinely new stuff. Lulu's pointing to the same quarter, so that ought to be interesting in the athleisure world. But this ends in tears if you don't see kind of product that gets some traction. No shoe pun intended, but they just need to move product. And the truth is they're facing kind of a secular decline, and you're just not seeing athletes that make the impact anymore. They still don't have a Caitlin Clark shoe out and running, which is phenomenal and weird because they're paying her a ton of money. They need to start kind of blocking and tackling and doing that. But that's going to be one of their best hopes. There are a lot of girl basketball players, and there's nobody moving product anymore. Michael Jordan is a one-off. And at this point, to guys your age, he's just kind of a 65-year-old dude who seems like kind of an ass. Chuck Taylor was a guy too. He had a nice run as a shoe brand. But not many people are buying Chuck Taylors, and Michael Jordan, again, it seems like it would be cool to be paired with him to play golf, but you would just end up losing like $10,000 and being insulted on a man basis for 5 hours. He's not a great guy. So they need something new. They need something fresh. There's only so many Venezuelan despots. They need traction, essentially. I still like On more for the next year. For the next few months, the stock has clearly got all the bad stuff priced into it. At least, it's fairly low on a multiple basis. It's been down 5 years in a row. There's a few headline brands that have been experiencing the same type of pullback in the COVID era. We'll see. The jury's out, but there are probably worse bets. And, this is one of those companies that brokers just love to sell. I mean, everybody is going to want to be long at the bottom on this because it just sounds so smart, right? I like to buy when others are fearful. And, you can get some momentum on this type of American brand, but eventually you got to have results.
Nike, look, prior to the last couple of weeks there, Nike was flirting with those April lows. So not a good place to be.
Right. And Lulu was the same place where we bought calls actually in the portfolio plus, or we sold puts rather, and in the 170 area right before our earnings came out in December, and they weren't catastrophic, and that was good enough. That's usually a pretty good sign that you need a catalyst to the downside to make these things. You need something new. We're pretty used to negative comp, same store sales. We're used to Nike being pretty miserable. That's why the multiple is so low. If they do turn it around, it'll be kind of a nightmare. It could be another tough year for Deckers because where Nike really needs most traction is going to be that high end running shoe type of space. And you're just not seeing it yet, at least not in On's numbers, even a little bit. So, it's the way to play this might be kind of, if you believe in Nike, buy, knock yourself out, whatever. If you think it's just BS, the Decker dip is probably more attractive.
Doublet in the chat. ran a 5K last weekend. Good for you, Doublet, for running a 5K during the holidays. It says no Nike shoes to speak of. There you go. So
So people running 3 miles, the hardcores, the diehards, the 5Kers out there. Yeah,
hey,
that's
I run 5Ks and nothing more.
so there you go. It's good to kind of it set your targets where you can reach them. There's no
That's
point
right. That's exactly right.
anything
All
else is
right.
just asking for knee tendonitis, Spencer. So way to
That's
keep it
right.
in check.
All right. So basically, what you're saying is, let's come back to this in a couple quarters.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
it's for my money. It's not going to be an explosive growth stock. You want that to be long when you can hold it for a really long time, and
Okay.
we're not quite there yet from a proof standpoint.
Okay. Let's move on here real fast. What are these the glasses you're wearing now?
These are the chunky glasses I'm wearing now. I got my new Meta AR, augmented reality display, which I'm still trying to figure out how to work them exactly. These are the Facebook partner glasses. Obviously Meta, I guess the young kids call them, but you can control it. It's a huge upgrade. They're just much better than the last. I've been. That's a picture I took of the beach 2 nights ago or last night. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's the camera is truly unbelievable. You could, I just kind of walk around the beach, taking pictures of weird stuff and enjoying my music. They're really phenomenal. I continue to be a believer in the AI on your face application, the second derivative of artificial intelligence. There's a couple ways to invest in this. I think, buying the guys who are just in the dollar spending war is last year's trade, or maybe 2 years ago, based on how the Magnificent Seven, for the most part, kind of turned in last year. But what I want is the way that AI is going to be used by like my grandma, or me for that matter. I'm an old guy now. And how we're going to be using it is stuff like this. This is a great camera. This is a much better camera than taking out my phone. It's a much better way to get directions, terrific way to listen to Spotify, and I can ask it questions about what I'm looking at. It's really kind of a spectacular product. As I've said before, it's a chunky set of glasses. I'm a guy with a big head and they look big on me. So, not everyone's going to want to go for these yet. These aren't the future, but you can see the future from here, pun very much intended. But the interesting thing about this is what we're seeing the biggest move in. We already have talked about Luxottica a lot. Warby Parker, a one of our 10 stocks to hold for 2026. It's super nice when stuff works out immediately. That stock has been screaming. It's up over 20% just since the start of the year. Let's just take the check and call it a year right now. 23%, give or take, depending on what time of day people are watching this, if they're watching on tape delay. Crushing, absolutely crushing. Now, they're the partners for Google's opportunity. And the real point of all this kind of caterwauling, all this chatter, is that, there's going to be a huge, it's for Meta, these glasses can be an enormous success and it's not really going to move the needle. That's an enormous company. Same thing for Google. But if you're a Warby Parker out there who's kind of a mediocre second operator optometry store, if you're running out and selling just a ton of Google glasses, man, you're making a fortune. That moves the needle quite a bit. And this is a company that has been beaten down and is way, way, way off the all-time highs. I kind of feel like they can get back to that. Now, I like my catalyst ambiguous and in the future sometime. And what's really been driving this, and they announced, and there were rumors of a Google partnership last year. They talked about it. They said, yeah, it's in development. Over the last couple of weeks, they came up with a semi-firm announcement that it's sometime this year. If that's a first half event, and if the glasses are even close to how cool these Facebook things that I have are, I think you're going to see some adoption. I think that people are making less fun of me in public now than they were a year ago for wearing these glasses. And, I'm comfortable with that. I view that as a market sign. So, I think the time is kind of now on some of these plays, and you're going to start seeing it show up in unexpected places, the AI impact.
So this was a stock that you gave to your members 5 days ago, and we're up 23%. So
Yeah.
are you managing this one at all? Are you taking any profits or what?
I'm kind of capering about. I'm dancing. I'm
Okay.
trying to argue that past performance does in fact predict future results. No, I'm not doing a damn thing to it. It's the thing about the portfolio that I gave this to with the portfolio members. They're stocks that you own for a year. And there's going to be some ebbs and flows, but the whole idea is to not overtrade them. It's great that we're up 23%. It'll probably give some of that back, I would expect, because the news here was that Meta can't meet demand. They delayed the rollout in Europe because there's just too many people that want to look like me with these cool glasses that play Spotify and take good pictures. And that sent Warby Parker spiking a lot higher. That tells you a lot about FOMO early in the year, and also tells you that where Warby Parker is just as a company. It makes a big difference if they're sort of a semi-tech company versus just being an optometry store.
All right. Well, listen, if you want to get Jeff Mackey's 10 stocks to own for the year, that link is in the description. You can get access to the Mackey portfolio. You can also, if you want to get Jeff's free content, the link is there as well. He publishes free notes probably 3 or 4 times a week. Just, your musings on the consumer and on retail. But the actual trades, the portfolio, the picks, the options trades, those are all for members of the Mackey portfolio. So again, use that link in the description to join and actually get access to the good stuff.
The real good stuff. We got options as well. I mean, we're making some money. It's been nice. We're off to a good start. It's been a lot of fun. I'm a man who likes to muse. So, if this is your bag, come on board.
All right. It was a good end of the year. It's a good start to the year. So far, so good. We'll see you guys right here next week. What should we talk about next week? Maybe there's a big retail conference, right? We should probably talk about that a little bit.
What? We've got Aritzia, my very favorite consumer Canadian kind of retailer right now. Sorry, Lululemon, you've been displaced. Aritzia reports tomorrow. I'm expecting enormous results, not positive what the stock's doing. And we've got the big consumer kind of event down in Miami where people will be hobnobbing and talking all kinds of stuff. Stitch Fix is presenting. That's a name you heard me talk a lot before. And, kind of a who's who will be down there. So we'll get some news being revealed. Now, traditionally, people kind of beat up the consumer space when they start talking fourth quarter numbers. They sell the news, but we'll see. I think it was, again, a much better Christmas than folks thought. So maybe it's priced in, maybe it's not. I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll have to tune in next week to hear.
We'll find out. See you there. Thanks for watching. See you next week.